Nobody wanted to deal with Nolan and Spider-Man in 1 month, so July was close to empty. But a few people looked at that empty calendar and decided it was an opportunity. Every single one of these movies was dead on arrival instead. Somewhere around 2009, an executive at Warner Brothers had an idea. What if you made an action thriller with almost no talking in it? A writer named Chad St. John ran with it and turned in a 75-page script called Motor City. Hollywood loved it. It hit number 13 on the blacklist, and then Hollywood proceeded to not produce it for 15 straight years. Albert Hughes signed on to direct in 2011 with Chris Evans starring. Evans walked, Dominic Cooper took the part, lost it to Jake Gyllenhaal, and then Gyllenhaal walked too. For a while, the rumor was Jeremy Renner. That never happened either, and in 2017, the whole project was pronounced dead. 6 years later, it found Alan Ritchson right at the peak of Reacher. And the thing is, if you're casting a movie with no dialogue, the big quiet guy from Reacher is not a bad call. It's a great call, actually. And they even made the thing as written. It's set in Detroit, 1977. Ritchson's an auto worker who falls in love with a local gangster's girlfriend, gets framed by the gangster for a crime he didn't commit, and goes to prison. When he gets out, he wants the girl back and the gangster dead, in that order. Total spoken dialogue in the entire film is like 5 lines. Everything else is action. The problem is, you can't just put 5 lines of dialogue on a poster and expect a crowd. It was too weird for the Reacher people and too normal for the art house people. The distributor who bought it for $3 million let it sit on a shelf for close to a year. And when it finally landed, it landed directly between the Odyssey and Spider-Man. It opened to $1.6 million from 1,600 theaters. People basically didn't even notice it. Well, to be fair, they noticed one thing. During the press tour, Ritchson decided this was the moment to share his thoughts on Trump. It blew up in his face, the way it always does, and for about a week that was the only real press this movie got. There's nothing else even remotely interesting about it. Nicholas Winding Refn is the director of Drive, and for 10 years he made no features at all. Then in 2023, a doctor found a leaking valve in his heart, and he went straight into emergency surgery. And on that table, his heart stopped. He was clinically dead for 25 minutes before they got him back. He woke up from a coma, and during recovery, he came to a strange conclusion. His career had died long before his body did. He'd run out of things to say years ago. But death, of all things, gave him a reason to work again. So the man came back with one movie left in him. That movie was Her Private Hell. Now that's actually an incredible pitch. Neon certainly thought so. They financed the film and aimed for a competition slot at Cannes. Cannes took the film but screened it out of competition. That's how a festival tells you it's not so sure about your movie. At the premiere, people walked out. One trade called it damn near unwatchable. The score settled at 42 on Rotten Tomatoes. And the movie is a hard sell to begin with. A young woman searches a foggy neon city for her missing father. A serial killer in diamond gloves hunts women through the same streets. It looks stunning. The score is incredible. But there's barely a story underneath, and once you notice that, you're done. At this point, the safe move was obvious. Book a few art houses and let the film find a cult over time. Neon put it in 675 theaters instead. That's a wide release for this. And the country answered. $530,000 opening weekend. That works out to like $785 a theater. A few dozen tickets per location for the whole weekend, and the next weekend it fell another 90% down to $358 a theater. This movie literally never stood a chance. A couple of years ago, Disney had 2 Moana projects on its hands. One was an animated sequel. The other was a live-action remake of the original, with a $250 million budget and Dwayne Johnson as Maui. 2 products, 1 franchise. Somebody had to decide which one goes first. The animated sequel got the Thanksgiving 2024 slot, and that part worked. Moana 2 started life as a Disney Plus series. Disney reworked it into a theatrical release for about $150 million, and it made over $1 billion. Great result. Everybody involved looked like a genius. Except now the expensive one had nowhere to go. It was originally set for 2025, but you can't ask families to buy Moana twice in one year. So, Disney pushed it all the way to July 2026. That corridor already held Toy Story 5, the new Minions movie, and Nolan, and it came just 20 months after the sequel. That's all the distance this remake ever got. Maybe a beloved movie survives that. This was not a beloved movie, this was a shameless cash grab, and they didn't even bother hiding it. People are not that stupid, so of course they reacted. The first trailer dropped in March, and the internet went straight after Johnson. People said he looked like The Rock cosplaying as Maui. The freaking wig trended for 2 days. Reviews landed at 31%, with Forbes comparing the whole thing to AI slop. And there's a reason for that. The remake follows the 2016 original beat for beat. There's literally same story and same songs, same everything, just photorealistic. It opened to just $43 million. It needed $600 to $700 million worldwide to break even. As of right now, it's sitting around $261 million total, and Disney is looking at a loss of somewhere between $100 and $125 million on the theatrical run alone. But at least they made Dwayne Johnson a very happy man. He got around $30 million as star and producer. Greg Araki was one of the best indie directors of the 90s. Then he disappeared for 12 years without a feature, and this year he came back with I Want Your Sex. Olivia Wilde plays an artist, Cooper Hoffman plays her new young assistant, and she turns him into her sexual muse. The whole thing is campy and explicit and just ridiculous. And Araki said it was a message to Gen Z, a generation that famously doesn't have much sex at all. He was selling to the one room with no buyers in it. Sundance loved it. It left the festival with an 89 on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics called it the boldest work of Wilde's career, and she was already on a comeback run after the whole Don't Worry Darling circus. Her other 2026 movie, The Invite, made almost $40 million on a $6 million budget. Magnolia paid 7 figures for the US rights back in January. All that was left was a release date. They had the whole freaking year to choose from. And then they went with July 31st, the day Spider-Man opened. And look, there's a version of that logic, counter-programming. Give the grown-ups something without superheroes in it. Except Brand New Day was not a normal blockbuster. It opened to $355 million, the second biggest debut in history. There was no counter audience that weekend. There was no audience left at all. Araki's comeback finished in 8th place. $600,000 from 700 theaters. This one's my favorite. It was such a failure they didn't even post box office numbers. Somebody looked at those and decided they were better left unreported. And they were right, because this one's just a bunch of sleazy people pretending they are in a serious movie. John Travolta plays a retired master thief. Lucas Haas pulls him into a $100 million heist in Miami. And for some reason, they also added Britney Spears' ex-husband into the mix. The biggest story here is the man behind this movie. Randall Emmett was one of the busiest producers in Hollywood for years. Over 100 credits. He produced The Irishman and Lone Survivor. And his real business was names. The model was simple. You pay an aging star a fortune for a few days on set. You put his famous name at the top of the poster. And then you sell this blind box to a bunch of streamers and foreign distributors. Bruce Willis did a pile of these, and Stallone once took $3.5 million for one day of work. Then in 2022, the LA Times published an investigation into Emmett because of allegations of sexual misconduct. He offered film roles to a 23-year-old aspiring actress in exchange for sexual favors. That ended in a $200,000 settlement. Emmett denied all of it, but it didn't save him. His production company collapsed. Hulu turned the whole mess into a documentary called The Randall Scandal. Most careers end right there. Emmett just switched names. He kept making movies under his middle name, and one of the things he made this way was an entire heist trilogy. Cash Out came first in 2024, and nobody saw it. High Rollers followed in 2025, and almost nobody saw that. This one closes the set.